In the heyday of the circus, the sideshow was a spectacle unlike anything else, a world where the bizarre and extraordinary were embraced, not hidden. We're taking you straight back in time to meet 15 real-life circus performers who truly existed. From the bearded woman to the human cannonball, these bold entertainers captivated crowds with their rare abilities and striking appearances. But who were they really, and what kind of lives did they lead behind the curtain? Well, get ready to find out. Their stories aren't just bizarre and unique, they're unforgettable. Number 15. The Revolving Head. Martin Joe Lorello, a.k.a. the Human Owl, or the Boy with the Revolving Head, and Bobby, was born in Nuremberg, Germany in May 1885. He had a severely curved spine that allowed him to rotate his head 180 degrees. When he turned his neck, his back curved into a distinct question mark shape. In 1921, he immigrated to the U.S. and began performing with famous attractions like Ripley's Believe It or Not, Ringling Brothers, and Barnum and Bailey. In addition to his eerie head rotation, he trained dogs to perform acrobatics. Although turning his head stopped his breathing, it didn't stop him from swallowing liquids while doing it. Lorello appeared in many of Robert Ripley's museums throughout the 1930s. He eventually died of a heart attack at age 70 and was cremated. His act, while physically punishing, became one of the strangest and most memorable routines to ever grace the golden age of American freak shows. Number 14. Maximo and Bartola. Maximo and Bartola made their first appearance in 1848 and quickly became global attractions. Born with microcephaly in San Salvador, El Salvador, their condition was manipulated into an elaborate scam. Sold to American promoter Morris, their handlers spun a tale claiming they were Aztec children found in a ruined temple. Capitalizing on the 19th century obsession with ethnological curiosities, Morris published a 48-page pamphlet telling a fabricated story that they were the last descendants of a vanished race. The kids were dressed in Aztec-inspired outfits and paraded around museums and stage shows across the U.S. and Europe. Their handlers grew wealthy, and the public never questioned the story. Maximo and Bartola were kept on display under various managers until 1901. Though their real history was erased in favor of spectacle, their legacy became an eerie example of how easily fact and fiction blurred in the age of human exhibitions. Their actual fate remains uncertain, buried under years of myth and marketing. Number 13. Sarah Hubolt. Sarah is an internationally known circus and physical theater artist, specializing in aerial stunts, hoop acts, and character-based performance. She represented Australia in swimming at the 2000 Sydney Paralympic Games. Proudly calling herself a natural-born freak, a term used to describe disabled sideshow artists, she owns it fully. Born with Hallermann-Streiff syndrome, which affects her bone structure and limits her height to 144 centimeters, Sarah is also legally blind. But rather than dwelling on her condition, she highlights her strengths, focusing on her physical artistry and presence. Off-stage, she works in arts administration in New South Wales and advocates for disability rights, representation, and equity in the arts. She's known in the sideshow community for challenging the outdated stigma around the word freak and for creating space where performance, identity, and advocacy collide. Sarah continues to redefine what inclusion in the circus world means, proving that difference isn't a limitation, it's power in motion. Number 12. The Camel Girl. Ella was born in Tennessee shortly after the Civil War with a rare condition that caused her legs to bend backward, making her a living spectacle. She preferred moving on all fours rather than upright, and that, fused with America's twisted obsession with sideshow oddities, launched her into the circus spotlight. Nicknamed the Camel Girl, she drew massive crowds. W.H. Harris, a cutthroat showman eager to boast the most bizarre lineup, offered her a high-paying role. Harper was paid $200 weekly to star in Harris's nickel-plate Circus, around $5,000 today. She used the income to buy a home and chase a career, but constant humiliation trailed her. Audiences were told to compare her to a real camel on stage. The treatment broke her, and after 1 year of that degrading contract, she quit. Afterward, she likely returned home to study. But tragedy shadowed her. Her father died in a fire in 1890, and her brother Willie passed away 5 years later. Number 11. Lalu Rampersad. Lalu, born in India, had a parasitic twin growing out of his chest, an incomplete sibling with legs, arms, and functioning genitals, but no head. Sometimes the twin was dressed as a sister for exhibition purposes. Though Muslim by birth, Lalu was advertised in sideshows as a happy Hindu to exoticize him further. In 1888, an English entrepreneur discovered him and brought him to Europe to tour. By 1891, Lalu reached America and performed under big names like Barnum and Bailey and Ringling Brothers. He became a mainstay in nearly every major circus sideshow. In 1905, while traveling to Mexico with the Norris and Rose Circus, Lalu died in a tragic train wreck. His condition made him a medical marvel and one of the most jaw-dropping human exhibits of his era. Despite being sensationalized, his presence helped raise awareness of rare medical deformities and created a legacy that lived beyond the freak show tent. Number 10. The Monkey Girl. Throughout her long life, Priscilla wore many titles. First introduced as the hairy little girl, then the Monkey Girl. Those close to her simply remembered her as Priscilla Bahano, the cherished wife of Emmett, the alligator-skinned man. Seeking answers, her parents took her to New York, where they spent 7 months consulting doctors. When that failed, her father, not a profiteer but a desperate man facing harsh reality, decided to exhibit her. Lacking English and business knowledge, he reached out to showman Carl L. Lawther. Carl was furious at how the public mocked her and would lash out at those who called her a freak. But eventually, even he gave in, pairing Priscilla with a trained monkey named Josephine and embracing the Monkey Girl label. Ironically, the public loved it. She always greeted guests with warmth and charm. Despite a life built on exhibition, she remained sweet and genuine until her passing in 2001, peacefully in her sleep. Number 9. Jonathan R. Bass. Jonathan belonged to the ossified men, a tragic category of human exhibits with bodies locked in permanent stiffness. Bass suffered from severe rheumatism since boyhood, but managed to work on his family's upstate New York farm until his late 50s. Then his body froze entirely, and cataracts took his sight. With most of his relatives gone, he began touring dime museums and sideshows to survive. Visitors traveled from far and wide to see his skeletal, emaciated frame strapped upright to a wooden board. His all-liquid diet left him weighing only 75 pounds. Despite everything, Bass remained remarkably upbeat during his final 5 years of life. The sight of him, rigid, ghostly thin, and expressionless, made him one of the most unsettling yet unforgettable sideshow performers of the era. He passed away from pneumonia in 1892. Even though his body was stiff as stone, Bass's resilience echoed long after the curtains closed on his final exhibition. Number 8. The Half-Man Wonder. Well, Johnny Eck wasn't technically born cut off at the waist, but he might as well have been. He had small, useless legs that he bound tightly to his torso using a custom harness. His twin brother Robert, fully able-bodied, resembled him exactly. In 1937, they performed a notorious stage trick during Raja Raboid's magic show. Robert would be sawed in half, and Johnny would crawl out of the box, sending theatergoers screaming or fainting. Johnny first joined a sideshow in 1923, with Robert attending to keep him safe. Known as the Half-Man, Johnny worked for Barnum and Bailey, Ripley's Believe It or Not, and even acted in 3 Tarzan films as Goonie Bird. He eventually retired to Baltimore, where he and Robert ran a penny arcade and children's ride in a nearby amusement park. In his later years, Johnny focused on screen painting and staging plays for neighborhood kids, proof he never needed legs to stand tall in life. Number 7. The Gentle Giant. Jack Earl, born in 1906, was already over 6 feet tall before turning 10. By 13, he had nearly reached 7 feet. His final adult height remains disputed. Estimates range from 7 feet 7 inches to 8 feet 6 inches. Earl suffered from acromegalic gigantism, which made everyday tasks both fascinating and difficult. Before his circus days, he appeared in Hollywood films like Hansel and Gretel and Jack and the Beanstalk. But a serious fall from scaffolding ended his film career. Not long after, Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Circus came to town, featuring Jim Tarver, their touring giant at the time. Earl towered over him. Spotting the opportunity, the circus offered Jack a 1-year contract. Though he had once sworn never to join a freak show, he accepted. On his first day, a dwarf performer joked that there were more freaks in the crowd than in the tent, putting him at ease. Jack toured for 14 years before retiring as a traveling wine salesman. Number 6. The Two-Headed Nightingale. Millie and Christine were conjoined twins born in 1851 in Columbus County to enslaved parents Jacob and Monimia, who belonged to blacksmith Jabez McKay. From birth, the sisters drew fascination and scrutiny. They were fused at the lower spine and shared one pelvis, yet each had 2 arms and 2 legs. As adults, they embraced their unity and called themselves Millie Christine, one person, not 2. Their enslaver sold them for $1,000 to a showman who saw profit in their uniqueness. After a series of transfers and even an abduction, they ended up in the custody of Joseph Pearson Smith. Smith leased them out to exhibitions across the U.S. and Europe, where they were paraded before physicians and elite audiences. After emancipation in 1863, they chose to stay with the Smiths and continue performing, not as freaks, but as a singing act. Their voices, stories, and unity transformed them from curiosity to icons. Number 5. The Living Venus. Frances O'Connor was born without arms, but she never let that define her. She taught herself to eat, write, smoke, and even shoot with her feet. At 15, she signed with the Ringling Brothers, managed by her mother while living in Sheridan. Her showbiz journey started even earlier, working with the Barn Circus and later with Sells Floto and Cole Brothers. Marketed as the Living Venus de Milo, Frances wowed crowds by performing everyday tasks people took for granted. She sipped wine, ate steak, and wrote letters, all with her toes. If you caught her act at the right time, you might even see her brace a gun with her feet and fire it using her toes. She'd light a cigarette like it was nothing. Frances eventually stepped away from the spotlight, never marrying, believing she'd aged out of love. She passed away in Long Beach, California in 1982 at the age of 67, leaving behind a legacy of grace, defiance, and skill. Number 4. The Venus de Milo of Dreamland. Aloysia Wagner, known on stage as Violetta, journeyed from Germany to New York with her stepbrother and built a career as a vocalist in venues like Coney Island's Dreamland and Ringling Bras. Despite having no arms or legs, not even stumps, Violetta moved gracefully using her torso. She styled her hair, threaded needles, dressed herself, and sewed, all with her mouth. She wore her wedding ring on a chain around her neck, and audiences were struck by her poise and beauty. In a glowing 1940 review, a writer described her as a torso that could rival any beauty queen, calling her the beautiful armless and legless Venus. Despite being presented as a sideshow curiosity, she radiated elegance, control, and defiance. Her sleek figure, self-sufficiency, and voice gave her performances emotional weight far beyond the physical spectacle. She died in 1940, but her presence remains one of the rare things. Number 3. The Human Caterpillar. Prince Randian, aka the Snake Man, astonished audiences with what he could do using only his mouth. He rolled cigarettes, shaved, lit matches, and performed intricate tricks, all without limbs. Standing just 3 feet tall, Randian's arms were reduced to stumps, and his legs were barely formed. When he crawled onto the stage in his red and white striped outfit, he resembled a moving caterpillar more than a man. P.T. Barnum wasted no time exploiting that visual, hiring Randian for his sideshow. He wriggled across stages for over 40 years, leaving audiences stunned by how much he could do with so little. Despite how dehumanizing the act could be, Randian owned his presence and executed every performance with quiet precision. He gave his final show on December 19, 1934, then died just hours later from a heart attack. After decades on display, Randian left behind a legacy of grit that didn't require arms or legs to carry it. Number 2. The Man with Two Faces. Edward Mordrake was a young English aristocrat, intelligent, handsome, talented, and cursed. Alongside his normal face was a second, grotesque one fused to the back of his skull. Though the face never spoke aloud, it reportedly smirked and grimaced, especially when Edward cried. He insisted the devil face whispered unspeakable things to him at night, tormenting him without rest. A skilled pianist and respected nobleman, Mordrake pleaded with surgeons to remove the second face, but no one dared attempt it. His mental state deteriorated rapidly. At just 23, he died by suicide, leaving a note begging for the second face to be destroyed so it wouldn't continue whispering in the grave. News of his condition spread like wildfire, and his story was eventually published in the Anomalies and Curiosities of Medicine in 1896. Though widely believed to be a hoax, modern science has acknowledged that a rare condition, craniofacial duplication, could, in theory, explain his nightmarish affliction. Number 1. The Siamese Twins. Chang and Eng were born in Siam, present-day Thailand, in 1811, connected at the chest by a 4-inch band of flesh. They left their homeland as teenagers and began capitalizing on their unusual condition by performing for spectators worldwide. Their bodies drew fascination, but their lives were what truly captivated people. Over the years, they performed before aristocrats, medical authorities, and the public across Europe and America. By the 1830s, their fame was unmatched, so much so that Siamese twins became the enduring label for all conjoined twins. Their presence inspired countless books, plays, and debates. They remain key to discussions on race, culture, and disability in American history. As Asian immigrants who eventually became landowners, enslavers, and husbands to 2 American sisters, having 21 children between them, their story is as complicated as it is legendary. Their legacy still echoes across medical ethics and pop culture. They weren't just performers. They were the original blueprint for conjoined fame and controversy. We hope you've enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for hanging with us, and we'll see you soon in the next one.